Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. Welcome to the undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. My name is Madhuri Lalwani from the Office of Admissions. And joining me today is Marcia Prince, Director, Office of Admissions at Ashoka University. A very warm welcome to you, Marcia. We first want to applaud all of you for submitting your application. I'm sure Marsha and I will both agree that that's the first step and that's the easiest part that is done. Now there's time to help you understand what comes next. And as you might know that at Ashoka, the admissions team holistically evaluates each applicant. So the upcoming assessments and interviews are your chance to show us a lot more about your personhood beyond what's on paper. So today we will give you a flavor of what to expect after submitting your application and also address some of your queries. So without further ado, let's get started. Feel free to post any questions you have in the Q&A box. Note that after our presentation, we will be taking your questions. Over to you, Marcia. Let's begin.
Thank you, Madhuri. Maybe we can start by sharing our screen. But as I begin, I just want to say, I know you've probably attended previous webinars where we talked about the application process. And, we walked through the app form with you, told you about the larger process. What we intend to do tonight is talk a little bit about what happens after the application form submission and how you can take your application forward, right? I understand that, the assessments, and if you get shortlisted for the interview, those are areas that might be of concern, that might be a bit worrisome, and you may wonder, how the assessment is going to be. So what we intend to do is, as Madhuri also said, is to just walk you through a little bit of what to expect, really, and how to prepare yourself. We won't have the time or possibly the avenue to get into a lot of details, but we just want to prepare you. And we think that, a little bit of preparation will go a long way in order for you to succeed. You're probably already preparing for assessments. You're probably already preparing for your on-the-spot essay, your Ashoka aptitude assessment. So let me just begin with my first slide and just walk you through the mandatory Ashoka assessments. And please note that, while you have submitted your application form, your application won't be considered if you don't take the assessments, right? So the assessments is really still part of your first stage of the application. So just keep that at the back of your mind. It's wonderful that your application has been submitted, but if you don't take the assessments, then that's going to be something that hampers your application from moving forward. Okay, so the two aspects of the application of the assessments, you have the mandatory assessments, are the on-the-spot essay and the Ashoka aptitude assessment. And as you probably know already, and we've walked you through this previously, is that in the on-the-spot essay, you'll be given two prompts. You'll have 30 minutes. It's an essay format. You have no word limit. Though I must say here that there is a minimum word limit of 250 words. So we would like you to write a minimum of 250 words in order to allow your application to be, your assessment, your essay to be as robust as possible. And so please keep that at the back of your mind while you're typing. The on-the-spot essay evaluates parameters such as your engagement with the prompt. We'll discuss all of this in detail, but your engagement with the prompt, your ability to think, on the spot, to think critically, to be able to understand the prompt, to comprehend, to think about various aspects of the prompt itself, your clarity of thought, your ability to articulate and communicate your ideas. So, and then eventually, of course, present some sort of an argument. All of this seems, quite dense. So we will substantiate this with some samples for you to look at. But you'll get two prompts and you pick one and then write an essay. Okay, and it's a space for you to be able to express yourself, your writing. But we're not going to focus so much on the glamour of the writing, really, right? We're not going to get caught up in, oh, how wonderfully or beautifully is written, or if your grammar is perfect. We understand there's a time frame, there's a time limit, and you've got to, work within that frame. But but we really want to know a little bit more about how you think, and I'll come to that in just a minute. The second part of the assessment is the Ashoka Aptitude Assessment. There are 40 questions. You have 90 minutes. It's a multiple choice format. So there's a prompt, and then there's going to be options, and you've got to pick the best option, right? So it evaluates, again, your aptitude, your comprehension, your logical reasoning, your some amount of quantitative reasoning and ability as well, because we do use mathematical concepts that you have studied till class 10. So hopefully that won't be difficult for most of you. If you have not done mathematics in classes 9 and 10, and I know there may be some of you, you can logically try to solve these problems, but we know that you have not done mathematics like you filled in your application form. So we will keep that at the back of our minds as well when we're evaluating, right? And so this is the Ashoka Aptitude Assessment. What we intend to do is we are going to pick up some prompts from the sample assessments that have been put up on the website, and we'll just give you some tools on how to look at these, right? Some of you may be getting some help, you may be preparing, you might be working towards the assessments. Over and above that, we just want to give you some tools on how to navigate the Ashoka assessments. As you know, that these are going to be, if you are in India, these are going to be in person, right? There are physical test centers across India, various locations, and you've picked that in your application form. It's computer-based only for those of you who are worried about writing on paper. Many of you, in school, you're still required to write on paper, and that might be challenging, but the Ashoka assessments are completely computer-based. You don't have to carry your laptop or your computer. It will be provided, but they will be computer-based. So typing is what you would need to be a bit familiar with and comfortable with. And of course, some of you actually have mentioned considerations, and some challenges that you are facing, whether some form of learning disability or mobility issues or impairments. So we've made a note of all of them, and we have, come up with a process on how to support you, whether in the center or in some cases online. So you will hear from us, so please don't worry about that. We're also, for students and applicants who are not from India, we will also be running the assessments online for you. But so the instructions that you get, for those of you who are going to a physical center and who will be required to go to a physical center, you'll be getting a set number of instructions. And for those of you for whom we are making other arrangements and other considerations, you'll be getting a different set of instructions from us. So please ensure that you know that whatever you get in your inbox on your portal, your application portal, is for you and only for you. It may or may not apply to another person, given their own situation and given, support structures and support system that we have put in place for them. So typically, the assessment is 30 minutes plus 90 minutes, so 120 minutes. Students who have certain challenges will be given additional time, or also the opportunity to use a calculator for certain disabilities, which the admissions committee has approved. So otherwise, you will all get rough sheets of paper. You can use rough sheets of paper and a pen. It'll be provided for you, but you will not be allowed to use your calculator. So just a simple calculator would be allowed for those who've gotten the approval, and this will all be mentioned to you on your hall ticket, mentioned to you, as you get that details over email from us as well. So just to give you just broad overview of this is what it's going to look like. You may have gone to centers in the past and taken assessments. So it might be very similar and you might be familiar with it, but if you're not familiar, this would be something that you can sort of prepare yourself for. But please note that you will receive all the instructions for you in your mailbox, and your hall ticket will be in your mailbox. It'll also be in your application portal. So please ensure that you follow the instructions that are on it for you, including the venue, the time slot of your assessment, the venue where you need to go. Everything will be on it. So please ensure that you read that and look at it properly. And don't look at somebody else's, because they may be going somewhere else. And so that may not be the same as yours. Okay? Okay, I think I've said sufficiently on this. So let me just move very quickly to the guidelines and just some things for you to keep in mind. So these are the guidelines for in-person assessments, okay, for all of you who will be going to a center. Please plan to arrive 30 minutes prior to the assessment. So if the assessment's starting at 10 o'clock, please ensure that you're there by 9:30. If the assessment's starting at 2 o'clock or 2:30, whatever timing that you get on your slot, please be there at least 30 minutes prior. You can carry a printed or a digital copy of the hall ticket to show. Printed one is easy because you'll also have to deposit your personal items and your phones after getting it verified. But a digital copy is also, permissible. So you can show that as you, enter. There will be a place where they will check your hall ticket. They will check your ID card. Please ensure that you have a recognized government ID card, photo ID card. It could be digital or hard copy. Again, you don't need to print it out. You can maybe have it on your phone, but ensure that your photograph is visible, is clearly visible. Your name is clearly visible. It matches the name on your application. So that you will have to show these two, the hall ticket and a recognized, non-expired, a valid, basically, government photo ID. Our request is that you bring minimal items to the center. So the website has got details on what's permissible and what's not. For example, you can bring water if you want, but it should be in a transparent water bottle, right? But we also do provide water. So you are not required to bring any personal items such as personal laptops. And if you do bring anything, you will have to store it away. So, preferably is not to bring anything really, right? And it's computer based. So, and we provide rough paper and pen. If you want to carry pens, that's fine. But you don't have to really bring anything. We may not have parking facilities in all our facilities, and some there are, and some there are not. So if you are coming by your personal cars, please, ensure that you tell whoever is driving the car that, to make arrangements as to when to meet you and where to meet you after they drop you off. Okay, so typically, because the assessment has got two sections, so there is the first section and then there's a 5-minute break. You can use the washroom during that and then come back and then do the second section, which is the on-the-spot, which is the aptitude assessment. So the on-the-spot, so you do have a short break between the on-the-spot assessment and the aptitude assessment. And so, typically we would not want you to, use, the washroom in and out, go in and out during the assessment. Of course, if there's any sort of emergency, you may. Okay. So having said this, for online assessments, just to say for those who have been given special considerations, you will be informed of the details and how this works and what the timings are and what sort of, facility you need. Particularly, you'll need a camera and a webcam and a microphone with your laptop or a computer that you're using, and you will have to be in a quiet place. There should be nobody in the room, and there are other sort of restrictions that will be required, and so you will be informed of those. Of course, it's a small number of students, and particularly students who are not in the country, and so please wait to hear from us on that as well. Okay, so let's just move forward a little bit to the next part of what I want to talk about, is that all this might be overwhelming, and we haven't even gotten to the part where we're going to talk about the assessments, right? Just talking to you about the physical centers, talking to you about, kind of what to expect and how it's going to be, the rules and regulations. But before we get into it, I just want to say, please don't be anxious. Okay? You may think it's an entrance exam. You may think that this is a go, no go. But I just want to reassure you. I think that's the word, to reassure you, that we do follow a holistic admissions process. Okay? And so we look at your application from, in the entirety of it. So whatever you've submitted, how you've done in school, what are some other aspects that you have pursued outside of your academics, your essays, your support that you need. So we look at your application form and you through a very holistic lens. The assessments are mandatory and they are a part of your evaluation and they are important, right? But we are not going to put all our eggs in one basket, right? We're not going to only decide your next steps within the process based on only these assessments. We want you to do your best. We want you to, prepare yourself a little bit. We also want you to enjoy the process. I think a big part of the Ashoka admissions process has always been that whether you're filling the application form, whether you're doing the assessments, whether you're part of the interview, hopefully this would be an enjoyable process. So we just want to tell you that please don't be anxious. And in many cases, we're also sure that families and, parents will also be anxious. So please tell them, we don't want you to be anxious. We want you to do well. And if you're anxious, you won't be able to do well. So we just want you to do your assessments well. You've done your application form. You've submitted it. Hopefully, you've really, put your heart into that. And we just want you to be prepared to do this well. So that's what we're looking for. So yes, please don't be anxious. Okay? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly move into the on-the-spot essay conversation, right? And I want to bust some myths, right? There are some do's and don'ts so let me just tell you what we're really looking for, okay? And this might really give you an idea of how to prepare yourself for the on-the-spot essay. So essentially, the on-the-spot essay is designed, like I said, you have two prompts. You pick one prompt and then you address it. But we really want to know and see how you think, right? So none of the prompts are like very factual, or we're not trying to gauge what you know really, how much information you have. What we're really trying to understand is how you think, right? So the topics are in such a way, and if you've seen the sample essays, you'll know, and we'll show you a couple now, is that if you read the prompt, you'll be able to understand that you don't need prior knowledge, really. You don't need prior information, right? But, and so it doesn't really matter what the prompt is. If you're able to read it well and understand it, you will be able to show us how you think. And that's what we're interested in. We're also not going to focus on how eloquent you are in your writing, or how many big words you use, or if your grammar is like perfect. Those are not things that we're focusing on. Of course, it's important to be coherent, right? But what we're really focusing on is how you are aligning your thoughts, right? How are you, again, in a way, how are you thinking? But aligning, another word for aligning would really be how are you structuring your thoughts? And we want to help you with that a little bit. How are you structuring your thoughts? How are you structuring your argument? Your own expression, right? In your own words, right? And so, maybe some of you have got fantastic vocabulary, and that's great. And maybe some of you don't. And that's great too. So it doesn't matter. Our focus is not necessarily on how grammatically or how linguistically strong you may be, but our focus is really to see if you've understood and if you're able to communicate that, right? So while we're not emphasizing on a maximum word limit, like I said, we do have a minimum word limit. We'd like you to write 250 words minimum. Over and above that, within 30 minutes or whatever time limit that has been given to you, the sky's the limit, right? You can write. But despite what the words may be and how many words you may use, we'd like you to focus on how you, we'd like, we will focus on, and we want you to as well, see how well you engage with the prompt, right? And how well you express your thoughts in a concise manner, but also use that time well and use that space well. Like if you have to give some examples and some reasoning, then use the time to think and to be able to put that down in a way that really responds well to the prompt. Um, so we also evaluate the accuracy and relevance of data, right? In case you're using any references or any statistics, if you are using statistics that you think need to be used, our hope is that at least it would be close to what is actually right. Again, we are not stuck up on statistics in the on the spot essay. We are not, we don't want you to. If you do know something and you're very sure of it and it's factually right, if you are using specific numbers and data or percentages, any sort of statistics that you're using to support your argument, then ensure that it is accurate. But again, we're not expecting you to know some of those things, or we're not expecting you to produce numbers and information and data. So don't worry about that, and you don't have to force fit that into the essay. So what we're going to do is, as you look at point 5, is to avoid the stress of the ticking clock, right? Because you're going to you're going to see the clock ticking. So what we want to do is kind of spend a few minutes in helping you sort of manage that clock by giving you a little bit of an insight on how to frame and organize your thoughts, right? So ideally, you frame and organize your thoughts and then you write. A lot of times you may think, oh my, I read the prompt, I'm going to start writing immediately because the clock is ticking. But we want you to just do a small exercise with us. And if you have a paper and pen, you should maybe keep one with you right now, or grab rough paper, a pen or a pencil, anything that you have, and maybe think this through with us, because we want to sort of prepare you on how to read the on-the-spot essay prompts. And you could just read any prompts after that, right? And have some sort of a framework on how to write the on-the-spot essay. So I'm going to stop speaking. And what I've asked my colleague here, Madhuri, to do is look at 2 prompts, right? And that's sort of what you're going to get, right? You're going to get 2 prompts. They're in the sample. So you can also look at the other prompts that are in the sample, samples that we have put up on the website. But we're going to just look at that, and we're going to sort of help you with a little bit of a framework on how to manage your on-the-spot essay when you actually give it on Sunday. Okay? So, Madhuri, let me hand it to you, and then, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Marsha. I'm sure this has been very helpful so far. So we designed a very rough framework. So do know that this framework could look different for all of you. But the general idea is that the first time you read a prompt, right, you are aware of the 30 minutes, you are going to get really conscious. And there's going to be a lot of thoughts that come rushing to your head, regardless of what the prompt you attempt. So the idea is to make sure that instead of, writing everything you can think of, which may compromise your structure, which may compromise your language, right? You take a few minutes, prioritize on closely reading the prompt, right? So the first thing is that you're going to closely read both the prompts. So that's why it's choose a prompt. So to be able to choose one prompt, you're going to closely read both the prompts, understand which one you would like to engage with, right? So I'm sure Marsha has already set the stage for us to understand that the focus is not on as many things you know about a particular prompt. The focus is what do you think you can critically analyze or critically engage with, which means which prompt inspires you, which prompt makes you want to write more, right? So take a minute. And for that, this kind of close reading to make sure you're comprehending the essay is really important. And in that stage, once you have closely read both prompts, once you feel more confident about one of the two, choose that and try to start a framework, right? So we're going to tell you a little bit of how you could frame. Again, this can look differently for you, that's fine. But the idea is to have the first 5 minutes or 8 minutes. 5 minutes should do for most people, but it's okay to have a rough estimate. Know that everybody's expression and articulation works differently. So imagine what works for you best. And one of the reasons we're going through the samples with you is to give you a sense that this process is not as daunting. And Marsha has also really helped us to understand that, giving up some of that anxiety and trying to have fun is really important, because imagine you're just geeking out about something you like, but in a structured manner, right? So first you choose a prompt, then you break down the prompt. So the idea is, like I said, as soon as you read a prompt, a lot of thoughts will come rushing to your mind, but we want you to edit and we want you to be able to structure them, right? So to be able to do that, imagine just a rough bullet point list. And so it helps that the framework is also in bullet points. You can see how that really goes a long way in helping us break the entire process down into something really bite-sized and accessible. Anybody can really do this. Do not focus on how much you know, all the facts that you can write. Try to narrow down, break the prompt, and also list your arguments. So what do we mean by this, right? A lot of you, if you've interacted with any kind of debating, if you've read a lot of essays, you know that there's like pros and cons, and you have upsides and downsides of different arguments. We again do not prioritize on taking sides, but just understand that when you're reading a prompt, it's important that you list down all that you can think about it, no matter, what it is. Even if you're in agreement, in disagreement, try to write out all of those thoughts. And then the structure becomes a lot more evident to you, because once you write them down, you're able to focus and you're able to determine, okay, well, how do I organize this? So when we say that we want the essay to be structured or coherent, what that means is that there needs to be a flow. And then, your flow from one paragraph to the other needs to make sense. So once you list all of these points down, there is a lot more clarity on, okay, how do I want to proceed with this? What is the value addition I'm making? Not just in the essay, but what is each paragraph leading to, right? So once you have listed down all your points, it becomes easier. It becomes a lot more accessible for you to now, with that 5 minutes, has set you up for 25 minutes of, let's say, that expression where you're able to sit down and you have all your points. Okay, I'm going to say this, and that already makes your like job a lot easier, because then you can focus on the actual writing of it, right? So these first 5 minutes we think are very important. It's almost like getting a cheat code to the activity. So, I'm going to put all of you to the test. So, just like follow me here. But once you've listed down your arguments, you create a rough essay outline. So, like I said, you're going to be able to edit, remove some of them. And if you're writing without this framing, you don't get a chance to edit. Your editing takes much longer, your writing takes longer, you end up spending time expressing, points that you may not want in your final essay. So it's really helpful to do this in the first few minutes, and then you start writing your essay. So also, like Marcia mentioned, the minimum word count is 250 words. So make sure that you're engaging with it. You're actually thinking about, what do I want to say about it, right? So it's not just a one word or few word or few lines on just a response, but it means that you're looking at a situation from all sorts of perspectives. And that gives you already a very rich sort of material to work with. And that works because until this stage, in your general essay writing, you may have written essays at the end of courses. You may write essays with some kind of support, right? Here you don't have that. You just get 30 minutes. So it's really clear to the bone. Like everything you can do in that 30 minutes, we're really interested in, okay, without any external support, without any preparation time where you're sitting and researching topics, what do you really think? So the focus is comprehension and how you think about it, right? So I'll just go over the two prompts. Like, I think the framing would have made sense to all of you. Just take a minute to follow that. I will, yeah, so these are the two prompts. I will read through them, but one of the aspects of this activity is that I would need a lot of support from all of you. And even like contributing today might make you feel a lot less stressed. You might feel that, okay, like this activity really is quite simple, and I actually have a lot to say about this. So, these are from the sample prompts in our essay. We will be sharing our sample after this activity. So don't feel worried about, getting a hand on that. Right now, I want all of our focus to just be on the prompts. So let me just start us off. The first prompt is: history is based on facts and evidence, while literature is considered to be works of imagination. Do you agree or disagree with this distinction between history and literature? Write a reasoned response with examples. And the second prompt, you have: advancements in the field of neuroscience have a direct correlation to the reduction in stigma around mental health in society. Do you agree or disagree with the statement? Give a reasoned response. Use examples required to support your view. So in both the prompts, I just want you to focus that the prompt in itself is giving you a lot of information. We're not just getting information on history or like literature, you're getting some perspectives. Is it just facts and evidence, or is literature just imagination? Right? Your prompt already gives you so much raw material to work with. So that's a huge plus. You need to identify the raw material that exists in the prompt. For this activity, what I would like to do, we've kept the steps of the framing below. I would like all of you to start contributing. Choose either of the prompts. If you're following my advice so far, this should be really easy for you. It's a cakewalk almost. So choose some points. We're not going to actually write the essays. Even if you want a rough paper take down, you can take down your points. But let's focus on the framing really. If you were to, take a break from a lot of the questions, I see a lot of questions in the Q&A box. That's great. We will get to it soon. But it's important that you give yourself a chance to, attempt this activity, right? So what we would like you to do is use the Q&A box, start writing some responses. What do you feel about it? If you had to, let's say, use 4 or 5 points to engage with either of the prompts, right? It doesn't matter. There are no right or wrong answers. The focus is just how you think. So if you can just maybe use, in the responses, can you just start filling the Q&A? Yeah, we can maybe give them 2-3 minutes to attempt this. So take a rough paper in the Q&A box for now. You can put pause on your rest of your questions. We will take all of them. But you can just try to attempt either of the prompts. This is really important because it will help you feel more confident about this process. And that's something we would like all of you to feel. Um, 1 second. So in the Q&A box, make sure you're writing 4 or 5 points about what you feel. So just to give you an example, if it's like history is based on facts and evidence, while literature is considered to be works of imagination. So the question already gives you a little nudge. It says, do you agree or disagree with this distinction? So reflect on what you think about history, what you think about literature. Write some of your thoughts in these areas, and then you can, give a response which helps us make sense of it. So I'm already starting to see some like answers, which is great. We have someone says we can speak about how history is a study of the past and literature is a study of art, or what artists do or what people feel. Again, you see how there can be so many perspectives. If you're going to define literature and history in your own way, that's completely fine as far as you're able to substantiate, which is why a little bit of framing helps in how you're arguing. What is your claim for the supporting argument? If you say history is a study of the past, what kind of supporting arguments do you have? And in contrast, is literature not a study of past? Does literature not engage with art from the past? Right? So you have to now, once you write these thoughts down, you're breaking this prompt down, you're adding your perspective. In that perspective, you have to start putting counter questions, right? So that's another huge way of like being able to deal with this framing. Um, all right, I'm just going through some other examples. History is rooted in evidence that are dug up. So it depends on how that information is verified. So I would ask you, does it not matter that literature is verifiable information? Does literature not have a verification process? So what would you categorize in history and literature? So, these are good questions to have because they mean that you're not just saying yes or no, because that's just really boring. Then we could just give you multiple choice question for the OSC section as well. But you have to think about nuance. If you were to dig deeper, just like we do in history and in literature, in fact, what do we find here? So, yeah, I'm starting to see some more responses. Literature is a record of history. Again, a very interesting perspective. It is much more vast with its genre, and history is nothing but equivalent of fictional literature. Again, a lot of controversial statements. And it's easier to say these things if you are just going to make certain points, but then you have to find a way to support your arguments. What kind of literature are you using, or what kind of historic examples are you using to support your argument, right? Okay. Marcia, do you want to check if there are any answers in the Q&A box that you would just like to pick in case something has caught your eye?
I'm checking.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the first one still?
Yeah, there are some for the second as well. I think we can discuss
Yeah,
both, but we're getting a sense that we will, get a sense of what we're saying here.
yeah.
So that's really helpful.
So somebody here has agreed to the advancements in neuroscience being equal to reduction in social stigma, and they have made some points in their argument for. They say the scientific society of knowers often rely on evidence in order to believe something. And so reduction in stigma is natural with objective evidence, as most individuals rely or bank on evidence to make their claims. So, for example, social stigmas like homosexuality will still be a stigma thanks to cultural roots and prevailing stigma and societal expectations. I think that's another aspect of that.
Hmm.
But I think you could, obviously, I mean, these are just some points, but you could broaden that to look at it from multiple perspectives. I think one of the things, and I'm not sure if Madhuri said it, is when we're looking at these prompts, we're looking to see if you're, kind of open minded to look at prompts from multiple perspectives, right? So you can agree with the prompt or you can disagree, but either way, the reasons for why you're agreeing or disagreeing would be very helpful. But it would also, and if you have the time, right, to write, you could also maybe elaborate on, even though you may be agreeing, you could say that why maybe someone else may disagree with that, right? Just to give
Yeah,
a little bit of a more open-minded or a more open response to say that there are different perspectives, and
yeah,
we should be okay with different perspectives, right? We as
yeah,
people who read the essays and who grade the essays are open to all ideas and open to all thoughts, and so we would like you to look at the prompts that way as well, because
yeah,
what you may agree with someone else may not agree with, right? And so it would be
yeah.
interesting to see if you're able to think like them as well, just for a little bit, even though you may completely hold on to something or stand for something.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like that's a great also segue into understanding that the reason there are no right or wrong answers to the on the spot essay is because there are so many perspectives. So in your framing, you're kind of going to choose a lens. A lot of what you want to talk about will, help you determine the flow, which means that all of you, even if you just take a minute to look at the Q&A box, we have a very rich, very active Q&A box that is really inspiring. That means that we have some work cut out for us in the admissions office when you attempt the on the spot essays. But do know that that means that all of you with just the same prompt can have so many different responses, right? So in that 30 minutes, I would also want you to do some mental preparation where you're not fixating on what's right, what's wrong, are you getting things right. Just focus on getting all your thoughts on paper, making sure you determine a flow, you determine some kind of lens, what kind of a way you'd like to approach the essay, and then your rough outline really just sets you to a very smooth 20-25 minutes where you're just writing away, right? And it may not work the same way for everyone, but just know that some of that framing goes a long way into making these 30 minutes really easy and possible for everyone. So, yeah, I think, are we good to move ahead, Marsha?
We are. I just want to add one point here is the reason that we've always had the on the spot essay uh, in the Ashoka admission system, and we've been doing it for over a decade now, 12 years, is because it's that one space that allows you to give a view on something you may have never thought about it before, right? I'm not sure how many of you sat and, at some point in life thought about advancements in neuroscience or, about history or literature. You may be like, I've never really thought about any of this, but the fact is that you can just read the prompt and think about it and give a view. I just want to reassure you again that there is no right or wrong answer. So don't try to, we are often taught to write something based on a answer that exists, but there may be no right or wrong answer. It's and that doesn't matter to us. So think about, so when you do these prompts, I know a lot of you are raising your hands. Unfortunately, at this point we can't maybe address these, but just want to again reassure you that we are not evaluating essays with the right answer in mind. We are just evaluating them to think how much you can think, right? So that's what we're looking at. So this is fantastic. I mean, I love the ideas that have come up. I'm sure some of you are still thinking, and there'll be a lot more. Just to get you started, so as you prepare for your assessments, please ensure that you go with the same kind of spirit and enthusiasm, and that'll really help you with the on-the-spot essays. Madhuri, can we just move on quickly? No,
Yes,
we need to keep
yes.
an eye on the clock as
Yeah,
well.
we'll just make sure we're sharing the link to the sample paper, but just know that, the sample has a lot more questions. So this is a good activity to just sit by yourself and go through.
Yeah. It's
But yeah,
also just
over to you,
enjoyable.
Marsha.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
okay, let's
Over to you,
quickly
Marsha.
move to the Ashoka aptitude assessment. Yeah, I'm kind of keeping an eye on the clock, so I don't want us to miss out on it. So, you know, uh, we may not be able to do an activity per se here. We'll show you some prompts to look at and maybe just walk through them with you. But what we really wanted to tell you is the Ashoka aptitude assessment, and I know there are a lot of questions about this. Uh, like it's You need minimal preparation. Okay, you need some preparation. I think the preparation really is what we are trying to do here with you, to sort of prepare you to enter into that space to do the aptitude assessment. Yes, of course, you may be like, if I practice more I could do more. That's true. We've got a couple of sample papers on the website which you can look at and you can practice through those. There aren't any papers out there else. There isn't any sort of papers of the past. So let's sort of get out of that exam mode per se. Yes, these are assessments, and yes, we are evaluating you. But the assessments, the nature of the assessments itself is that you need to be fully present there. And while I'll talk to you about the assessment, the aptitude assessment, I just want to say that you'll have 40 questions and you'll have to attempt them, and these are all MCQ, so they're multiple choice questions, and so you will pick an answer from what's given to you. What's more important is how you get to that answer, right? And that's how it will show how your thinking works. Again, I think we have talked a lot about how you think. This is another way of us assessing just your ability to think, under some pressure, time pressure, but you will be seated there. You will be, in the space where you are focused, where you are looking at every prompt. So think about when you're addressing prompt one, question one in your aptitude assessment, be fully present. Be fully present when you're looking at question one, which means just like what you did for the on-the-spot essay, you looked at the prompt, you broke it down, you understood it. The big fear in the Ashoka aptitude assessment is that you will try to get to the four options or the three options that are there and try to pick the right one. It won't work that way. You've got to take 35 seconds to 45 seconds, possibly a minute, to study the prompt, right? So look at that. There are only 40 and you've got 90 minutes, right? So you're looking at the prompt, you need to read it, you need to study it, read all parts of the prompt, understand it, and then logically, right? So I'm walking through this, right? We're checking. The Ashoka aptitude assessment assesses your aptitude and your comprehension and your engagement. So if you're able to comprehend the prompt and if you're able to engage with it, right, and then apply logical reasoning. So if it is a logical reasoning sort of prompt, you will be able to apply logical reasoning. Now, logical reasoning is not going to come necessarily by preparation for an exam. It's just how you think. So even if you don't have the tools, you've not done it before, you will be able to logically think through a problem if you're able to look at the prompt well and engage with it. In some cases, because we are looking at mathematical concepts till class 10, so whatever you study till class 10, there will be some form of numerical reasoning that you may have to do, right? I mean, you may have to assign, for example, if you're trying to figure something out, you may have to assign X to one of those, things that you don't know and say, okay, how do I arrive at X, right? And so, but it's very basic math. It's like just till class 10. So no calculus, nothing, no advanced, trigonometry or anything of that sort, which is which you would do in classes 11 and 12. Or it would be, something related to spatial reasoning or problem solving capability. So these are the things that we are really looking for to see if you're able to look at a diagram and to be able to, sort of solve that, to look at, some form of numbers and be comfortable with that, or to look at some comprehension or comprehensive text and be able to logically reason. Ultimately, what we really expect is they're able to solve the problem, right? So what are your problem solving capabilities? My request is really that you look at each individual question or prompt in their entirety, right? And sit with it, give it give it a minute of importance to understand it, and then engage with it. Don't rush to solving the problem before you are able to look at that prompt. So there are going to be 40 questions, and we expect, and they will be of all of these different kinds of expectations that will be there, but they're enjoyable, and you may so I would just say that sort of immerse yourself into that process, and that's something that would really reveal your aptitude, your problem solving capabilities, your engagement. And that's what we're looking for, right? Along with, of course, like we've been saying, how you think, your ability to reason and think, which is very important in both the on the spot essay and in the Ashoka aptitude assessment. So what we'll do quickly is I'm going to hand it back to Madhuri to just walk you through some sample prompts. We're not going to spend too much time on it, but just to show you the range. These are all from the sample questions. So please, if you don't have them already, just download them. Look at the prompts, try to solve some of them, put yourself into that sort of zone of how these prompts are designed so that you understand what really you're walking into when you go into that assessment on that day. Okay, Madhuri.
Yeah, thank you, Marsha. So we have just four samples out for you. I don't want to go through each and every word of the samples, but I'll just give you a sense, like Marsha was saying. We've chosen different prompts that are showing different, like assessing different kinds of qualities, right? So if you can see, this one is clearly a mathematical prompt. There are certain conditions. You've given a certain ratio. You have the amount of baked bread, like requires certain amount of flour. So then you can think about, okay, if this is the amount of total flour, how are you going to use the ratio, and how are you going to use the particular values for each kind of bread? And you're just going to be able to run a mathematical equation. Again, I want you not to feel apprehensive about this, because we're going to share both the sample papers in the chat. Our team would do that. So just know that you can, take a look at these in due time. But this one would largely just, there are conditions. You're able to draw up an equation to solve the answer, and you have four options, so you can choose one of those. If you can see the next one, here, this is more of a comprehension related prompt, but there you're also running some kind of elimination, right? So the condition is that a cat slipped into the house when Alex was in the kitchen, grabbed the fish from the counter, and basically three neighbors are giving three kinds of narratives about this cat. And Alex is trying to find out with some kind of elimination, right? So you are trying to find out which is the accurate description of the cat. So you just have to sit with the prompt, and again, understand that do not rush to find the answers, like Marsha said, because that might compromise your comprehension and your close reading with the prompt. So this is more language and elimination skills related. This is the third one. This is fairly objective. It's numerical. So there is, like, as you can see, the sum of every row, column, and diagonal is the same. But in that case, if there were only 2 to 10 of hearts in this deck, which one would the 2 of hearts be? So you kind of just need to run up your numbers, add from all angles, as I can say here, the way we say for perspectives. So that's another sample. And the last one here, this one's quite interesting. We chose it because you can see the question actually says, after this paragraph that you read and comprehend, the question is which one of the options is a logical extension. So again, know that it's not just, yes, you're working with a lot of what you have, but the options are a way of understanding, okay, if I were to take this further based on an accurate understanding of the prompt, which was the directions that it might go to. And so in a lot of these questions, do know that, yes, there will be right or wrong answers for this one, but it's a lot easier. As far as you're reading it closely, you should be good. So back to you, Marsha, for the interviews. You will find the samples on the chat, so just know you can sit and attempt them later. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Madhuri. So I just want to, before we move on to the little bit about the interview part, I want to say that, thank you all actually for participating in the exercise and for also, reading through the prompts. I know there's a lot that we can do and possibly would want to do. And though we've not spent as much time as we would like to, please note that we are only trying to give you a little bit of a teaser or a taste, really, of what is to come. What would be ideal is that you start with the samples of the on-the-spot essay as well as the aptitude assessment that you already have. You have a few more days, get comfortable with them, try and understand them, look things up if you want to, try and understand the logic behind these. Of course, the prompts that you get will not be what's on the sample question papers that we have uploaded, but you'll get an idea of, hopefully, and some sort of comfort really to address these. So that's what we want to prepare you for, and that's what we are trying to do today. So I want to take your focus away. I know that the assessments are the big focus, and what I'm going to say next may not necessarily be, you may not think it is relevant at this point, but we may not get this opportunity again. And so we thought we would just give you a little bit of a, overview of the interview process as well. I also want to say that, very unfortunately, there will be a selection process or a shortlisting process for the interview. So there might be, some of you who are here listening to this who may not make it to the interview round. And I just hope that, you enjoy the process till where it is. And if it doesn't move forward, that you would, take it well. For those who will be shortlisted, and at this point, we don't know who will be shortlisted, right? You don't know till you know, basically. There will be this mandatory interview. Currently, we do it online, on Zoom, and sometimes we also ask for in-person interviews. You get to pick your preferred date and time and slot. It's like a calendar that opens up for you, and you can choose. So, and it'll happen with either two members, two-member panel, or sometimes a single-member panel if it's depending on what you're assigned. And to talk a little bit about the interview itself, our interviews are not only academic, they are both personal and academic. We are trying to understand each candidate and trying to get to know them to some extent, as much as that is possible within the interview, in their unique personal context. Okay, our aim is to evaluate your academic rigor, your interests, your non-academic parameters as well, the things that you've engaged yourself in. Of course, the base of our interview is really going to be from your application form. It's not going to be, random sort of questions. But we do want to see if you, so that will be the base, but we do want to know how well you've sort of engaged with your application form. We also, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're exactly looking for. So it is personal, but it's also going to be academic. It's also going to be quite a well-rounded conversation, okay? And because we are a fully residential program, we also try to get to know you sufficiently to understand your suitability, not only for academics at Ashoka, but also for residential fit at Ashoka. So hence our questions will extend and be expanded across various aspects to try and understand you. So broadly, having said this, let me just move to the next slide, where I want to talk to you about how you can prepare, okay? Again, just a few points. All of these can be very individually long sessions on how to sort of prepare yourself, but we just want to give you some pointers. Should you make it to the Ashoka interview process, first and foremost, please familiarize yourself with your application. You may have submitted your application a month ago or 2 months ago. Please don't show up for the interview without even having reread the things that you have put in your application. I understand that in some cases you would have gotten help for your application. Maybe somebody's helped you with your essay or with filling some parts of the application. But we, as you know, we read all the applications. So we evaluate applications and all sections of the application, right? And so when the time comes for the interview, we have already looked at your application multiple times. And so we have specific questions from your application. And then, of course, there will be a range of other things as well that we will discuss. But please familiarize yourself with your application. A part of what we also want to understand is how well do you know what you're applying for, right? You may want to study physics at Ashoka. You may want to study economics or literature or anything. We also want to understand how well you have spent time trying to evaluate Ashoka. If you've decided to apply, then there must be some reason that you've decided to apply to Ashoka. So what sort of research have you done on Ashoka? Our research is reading your application form, looking at your assessments, trying to get to know you in the interview. What have you done to prepare yourself? And so it would be important for you to have a look, at the Ashoka academic curriculum and how the academics is taught at Ashoka. If you have seniors, if you have friends, if you know people at Ashoka, maybe have some conversations with them and find out what life is like at Ashoka, right? We also want to understand why you may think that you're a good fit for Ashoka. We may evaluate you in a certain way, but we like to hear from you. So we like to see how well you know yourself, how well you know your surroundings, how you're dealing with things around you. And like I said, it is a personal interview as well as a academic interview. And so we are going to try and see, what really motivates you, what drives you, how self-aware you are. And so it'll be a conversation, right? It'll be open conversation. We may have some questions, but we don't have a list of 10 questions to ask you, right? We're going to start from your application. It may be also a time for us to find out if there are any additional details, things that you have mentioned, we want to know something more, or maybe you want to tell us something that you haven't put on the application form. So that's something that's also possible in the interview. A word of caution, actually, if you ask me, is the interview is not a place really to market oneself. Either way, right? On one hand, you don't have to oversell yourself. On the other hand, you don't have to undersell yourself. So don't overestimate or underestimate yourself, right? Our aim is really to get to know you. It's a short time. It may be 25 minutes, it may be 30 minutes, it may be 40 minutes, but that's pretty much all the time that we have, right? And so in that space, the more you engage, the better the conversation. And I can tell you, I have done possibly the most interviews at Ashoka over the years, and every interview is different. Every interview is different, and the more the more the students engage, the more they have to share, which is really reflective of who they are, where they've thought about things. The more I learn as well as an interviewer. So I'm not coming to an interview only to evaluate you, right? I'm also coming to get to know you, but also to learn something from you. So maybe you can learn something as well from the person interviewing you. So look at it that way. Again, I want to say we want it to be enjoyable. We want the interview to be enjoyable. So in that conversation, have your conversation with curiosity, with openness to learning. And remember that this is essentially a conversation. This is a conversation. Yes, we call it an interview. And yes, we will evaluate you. So it is an interview, but it's also a conversation. And it can be a very, very enjoyable conversation. And once that's done, then your process is sort of over, and then you get to know you'll get to know your decision within the round in which you've been interviewed. So that's sort of the larger, some tips on interviewing. So in light of all that you've heard today, and Madhuri and I are going to kind of stop talking. We'll take a few questions after this, but I just want to say that here's a photo that actually we wanted to show you. It's a monkey at Ashoka trying to handle the camera, and seems to be having a really good time. So please keep calm. They're only Ashoka assessments. Please enjoy them. Do your best. We'll look at it holistically. Don't worry about what happens after. While you're doing the assessments, focus on them. And if you need any help and any support, and if there's anything that's stressing you out, you can write to us soon, and then we will ensure that we can support you in whatever way possible. So before we take some questions, and I think we have some time for some questions, I just want to say a couple of quick things. The samples have been shared on the chat box which are on the website in case you've missed them on the website. So please look at all the samples, the on-the-spot essay as well as the assessments. I also want to say that the assessments are going to be in physical centers. For most students, we've made some exceptions for some students. And the venue, the time slot, the details, the hall ticket, you should get everything tomorrow. So please don't stress about it. You may not have seen it yet. You will get it tomorrow. We wanted to do this session today and also ensure that we have everything in order. If you have any serious concerns, you can write to us today, or else you will get all the information from us tomorrow. So please don't panic in any sense. And yeah, so I think I've kind of overall tried to summarize that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Marcia. I think we've taken a lot of time. I've answered a lot of the immediate questions on chat as well, just because I think we're running out of time. But Marcia, a few questions related to the tests, right? One of the questions is there any negative marking to the A?
There's no negative marking, okay? So no negative marking. Also, the way the platform is designed, you can go, the on-the-spot essay happens first. It's for 30 minutes, and if you have been granted extra time because of some sort of learning challenge, then you will get additional 15 minutes. And once that's done, and you finish that section or your time runs out on that section, then you can't go back to that section. Then you can only move forward to the next section. But within the aptitude assessment, you've got 40 questions, and you can go back and forth. You can even mark some as, to return to. So all the instructions will be there. So please know that you will get a lot of instructions over this week, and we're expecting you to read your emails, check them, ensure that you read everything carefully. And like I said earlier, go to the venue that has been assigned to you at the time that has been assigned to you. And so your hall ticket is for you. It's when it comes, please read through those carefully. All the information will be on it. Okay. And so is that okay, Madhuri?
I think the other two questions are they getting rough sheets and calculators? So we keep getting the same questions.
So you will get rough sheets and pens. You can bring. We are not encouraging you to bring them, but we will provide them. But calculators, you're not allowed to bring calculators. Calculators is just for a specific number, a handful of students who've got some challenge where they have already got their prescriptions as well as their diagnosis for it, and it's been approved from our side as well. It's a basic calculator. So it's the basic calculator. It's not an advanced calculator. You will be allowed to bring a basic calculator. We are not going to give calculators to anybody, but it will also say on your hall ticket, if you are somebody who has been allowed additional time by the admissions committee and the use of a calculator. So for students who require scribes, we will also be reaching out to you separately, if not already, and we will also send you information based on what the admissions committee has approved for you. So please wait to hear from us. Don't panic. I think one of the themes for this evening is please don't panic about everything, about anything. We are going to communicate. We will tell you what you need to know. So don't assume anything. Right? You may have heard something from here and there. Don't assume anything. Please go by what you receive in your hall ticket. Okay? And that's what in our centers across the country, or the few of you who would be doing it online, we will be following those permissions that have been granted by the admissions committee.
Perfect. And at the same time, like Masha said, just prioritize all the instructions that you get. Pay attention to those. So, a lot of the questions that are coming on specific instructions, just know that this will be in your email in the next few days. So try not to stress out about that. Focus on the preparation as we were speaking. Two other important questions. What is like a good score for the AAA? I think it would help for them to know like cutoff and what does that matter. And the second is what is the weightage of each of these steps in the admissions process?
I can't answer either of those questions, but they're good questions, right? And they are questions whose answers I need to know. You don't really need to know. But what I can say is that, and I'll go back to the principle of it, right? Your assessments are important, but they are one part of the admissions process, right? So I think your focus as a student is for you to do those assessments as best as possible, right? We are not publishing a list of things and how many scores, what matters, what not. You could be somebody who scores, and I've said this time and again, you could be somebody who scores, who's got a very high assessment score or a very high SAT score or a very high, school score, right? And that may not be what uh, is necessarily working out for you if nothing else is adding up, right? So it doesn't matter. So we're not focusing on one thing. But the good part is that if some other aspects of your application form are not, uh, you know, as we expect it to be, let's say, uh, maybe a good assessment score can really help balance that out, right? So look at it that way. Look at that. I think time and again we've said this, and I'll say it again. We do holistic admissions, right? We're trying to our entire process is designed to get to know you. So don't get stuck up with the score, like, oh, should I get this percentage? Should I get that score? And I think there was a question that I saw, and I'll just answer that. I know some of you've taken the SAT or the ACT, and you may have submitted it and you may have done really well in it. If you do better in some of those or in one of those as opposed to your Ashoka assessment, we will consider that as well. So, but then again, most students don't have the SAT, and that is not at all mandatory for us, right? So, and it's optional for you to have put it. And if you've put it and you think you've done well, that's great. We will look at it. So, whatever you've put on your application form will be considered along with your assessments. But the assessments are a way for you to also, let me just give an example here, I think. For example, maybe school examination scores or the way the school examination works in certain boards is not really your preferred style, right? The assessments, the Ashoka assessments are not at all like that, right? They don't expect you to be memorizing anything or writing or just regurgitating what you've learned. And so maybe this model works better for you. So it just gives you an avenue to showcase your work and how you think and how you learn your style, right? Uh, yeah. So it's just holistic. So yeah, I think I should probably just leave it at that to say, when you did your application form, you focused on your application form. Now you're doing your assessments, you can focus on your assessments. If you do get shortlisted for the interview round, it's unfortunate that we can't interview everybody, but if you get shortlisted for the interview round and we interview you at that point, I would just say focus on the interview.
Yeah. And two important questions which I can just take before
Sure.
we close. One is that do both the on the spot essay and assessment happen on the same day? Yes. It is on December 7th for this round. So just know that everybody make yourself available on December 7th. Even if you haven't received the rest of the communication, the date is fixed. So know that it's going to be on the 7th. And the second is if a student admits an SAT test, do they still need to appear for the Ashoka aptitude test? Yes. Both the assessments, like the on the spot essay and the assessment, the entire process is mandatory for all candidates. So it is very important that you make yourself available on this day, that you follow all instructions, make it to the center way ahead in time so that you're just not dealing with all the anxiety of the operational kind of anxieties on that day. And your focus is just on enjoying it as we went over. I think we have around 1,400 questions, Marcia. That's like virtually impossible for us to take them. But I think we've covered as many important aspects that I think can make this process a lot more accessible and a lot easier for everybody. Is there anything you'd like to say before we start closing, Marcia?
No, again, I would just want to say, please enjoy the process and, do your best. This is the first time we're doing a session on assessments. So regardless of which round you apply in, whether it's round one, round two, round three, this time we have 4 rounds. Regardless of which round that you apply in, the process is the same. So prepare yourself. If you have specific questions, check the website. There are a lot of questions on the website. There's a lot of information on the website. In the admissions page, there's also information on the application form. If you're somebody who has not yet looked at the application form and you're applying in a subsequent round. So if you want to know about centers, if you want to know, and please note that we are very mindful of, if you have some sort of a learning disability or some consideration you need, or a locomotor disorder, and you need something additional, we are very mindful of each one of you. And over and above that, we also are mindful of certain other aspects of your application which you have shared with us confidentially, and we do check each one to see how we can support you even in the assessments. So please cooperate with us as well. The email ID that you have is admissions@ashoka.edu.in if you have submitted an application form. So if you have any concern for the upcoming assessments, please write by tonight. If you have some questions that the admissions committee needs to look at. And so we will take it forward from there. And finally, I just want to close by saying that you will receive all information about your hall ticket shortly, right? So we're hoping it will be tomorrow. So please don't worry about that. You will get communication from us. Just keep an eye on your mailbox.
All right. Thank you, Moshe. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, for being such active participants. This is really one of the most exciting sessions that I have been a part of. And I hope this session was really helpful for all of you to understand Ashoka's holistic admissions process. Before we wrap up, we would also really appreciate if you take a minute to give us your valuable feedback. The link to the feedback is in the chat box. Please note that the recording of the session will be available on Ashoka's YouTube channel. So even if you feel like, any of that you would take a minute to revisit, you can do that. You would like to share with your friends, we would really like that as well. And once again, I thank Marsha for taking the time out to participate in this discussion with us. And this brings us to the end of this session. I would like to say on behalf of the entire Ashoka University team that all the best for your Ashoka application. Yeah.